the Suck It, Fill My Bucket Show podcast. I'm Christina Reynolds, and I am Mom's partner in her life's enhancement. I liberate moms from the belief that they must put their wellness, needs, and desires on the back burner until their kids are grown. It's about getting rebellious from those beliefs and getting moms to say suck it to the tasks that can wait and mindsets that don't serve her in order to fill up her bucket. So, join us in this movement and let's get busy building your life by intention.
Hello, and welcome to the Suck It, Fill My Bucket Show podcast, the one with the Happier Mom Project. I am your host, Christina Reynolds, and today I am going to give you 3 ways to increase your happiness as a busy mom through this holiday season, even when it feels like everything is hard and crazy. So Thanksgiving is tomorrow. Happy Thanksgiving. Wanted to throw that out there. Otherwise, let's jump right into it and let's get real, because the holidays are great and wonderful, and we have such great memories, and we can do such great things with food and crafts and have such a great time with our kids. And I trust that you guys are going to do all that and that you're getting bombarded with that basically everywhere you go, which is awesome, because that's the whole point of this week, is to focus on all the things that we're grateful for. However, here I'm going to do something a little bit different, knowing that you're getting that in so many other places, and maybe not thinking so much about yourself. And so I'm going to go against the grain a little bit and remind you that it's about moms setting intentions to prioritize their mental wellness and their health, because they understand that when things get crazy and busy and we have a million things to go and we have bake sales and recitals and all the things, we can ignore our own needs, right? Well, problem is that's not sustainable, right? Like, even if we can fake it for a small period of time, science and physiology says if you don't have enough water in your body, your brain's not going to be able to function. If you don't feed yourself, then you're not going to be able to have high stress resilience and stress relief and things like that, right? So this holiday season, as it's upon us, it is not always the happiest season of all, right? Like we say it is, but let's get real for a second. It can be stressful. I hear moms all the time saying, I don't know where the money for presents is going to come from, and I have to be here, and I have to be here, and there's only one of me. And it gets to be a lot, right? And so I'm here today on this beautiful Wednesday to just say, calm down, slow down. As this time is upon us, it doesn't have to be the most stressful time, but it's about where we place our intention and what we choose to do to feed our souls and our minds so that we can make it a really enjoyable and happy season with great memories and good food. And it's a great time that's not built on grief and sadness and a whole bunch of things that the holidays can bring for a lot of moms, especially moms who have lost children or family members, and the holidays feel not as warm and comforting and full as perhaps it would have in the past. So unless you're setting strong intentions to have healthy mind and body and spirit, it won't happen. You know, it won't happen by default or by accident. You definitely have to plan for it. So if you don't, you're going to experience that burnout, which we all know what that feels like, and we don't want to do that, right? We want to experience a higher level of living. And I know that if you're listening to this, you're one of those people. So let's jump right into my top 3 ways to increase your happiness this holiday season, even with all the busy. Last note on that, we don't need to wear our busyness like a badge of honor, right? Like, it's not honorable to be exhausted and burnt out, not being able to give of yourself to your husband or to your kids or to your work or to yourself. Like, that's not honorable. Let's stop wearing the badges of busyness like it's honorable or something, right? What is all that busyness doing for us? Let's just stop and think about that for a moment, okay? Which leads me to point number 1. To start journaling, okay? Now, don't underestimate this. I'm going to say, because this can get often underestimated or overlooked, or people can try it and say, oh, journaling's not my thing, or I did it for a while and it didn't really work for me. And what I want to say is that there are so many different ways to do this, and I'm not going to deep dive onto them all today because this is just a quick chat for moms who don't have a whole lot of time. So the reason I want you to do this is because if you want to get relief from your feelings or from your trapped emotions or anything that's floating around in your mind, journaling gives you the option to be able to see yourself in a way that maybe you can't when you're just like seeing yourself in your mind, right? And one of the reasons I love this is that it can be done anywhere, 24/7, in your closet, in your bathroom. You know, like I always say, men are allowed to go into the bathroom for like 30 minutes at a time, and it's totally acceptable, right? Like we can go into the bathroom and start journaling for 10 minutes at a time. It's what we choose to do with our time, right? Like we can find ways to fit it in, but unless we set that intention for ourselves, it's not going to happen, right? So I love this because it's free. You can do it anywhere. You can do it in under 10 minutes, which, you know, I'm a huge advocate of doing things in under 10 minutes for your mental health. This is one of the reasons that I love it. And because there's so many different ways you can do it that if you get bored with one way, you can start somewhere new. So let me give you an example if you're new here, okay? My suggestions would be to, if you are new, do a few things. First, commit to doing it for 30 days, right? Like they used to say that it takes 21 days to create a habit, but I don't really think that's true. I think in my experience, it can be an okay starting point and foundation, but to like keep going long term, like I definitely need to put in like a month or two of just regular habits, like changing the way that I do something or stacking a habit onto another habit. So if you regularly do something, you can just add, 10 minutes of journaling and set your timer if you want to, and have it be something that you just add to your routine. So try it for 30 days. That's my first thing, is just to commit to it for a while, okay? My second suggestion is to not filter it, just to let it flow, baby. Just let it flow. Don't have this be the same journal that you use if you, like I write for a blog and I create content for other things. And when it's all in the same journal, it gets almost confusing. Like, am I writing for other people to see, or am I writing this for me? So have a journal that's just for you to be writing your thoughts in that nobody else is going to see. It can be like just crazy writing, like nobody else can even read it. Rock on, girl. Okay. My third thought is just to get started. Okay. Just do it. Don't say I'm going to do it tomorrow. Just get started right away and set that intention to commit to doing it. Okay. So there's a few types when it comes to journaling. Okay. There is free writing, which I love because you can, wanting to make sure that we're good to go here. Okay. I really love free writing because it allows what's in your head to just be like dumped onto paper. Like, I think I was free writing the other day and I was like, where do I start? Like so many things are in my head. And so I was all by myself in my car, because that's where I meditate and journal sometimes, because when I'm out there, everyone kind of knows like, oh, mom doesn't even want to be in the house. Like she wants to be like, she doesn't want to be bothered. So they know that I'm close enough that they can come get me if they need to, my husband and my kids, but they also know that it's kind of my time. So I'm in my car. My thoughts are going 100 miles a minute and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to free write. So I turn on the audio that gets my brain, into a place where I can even connect to my source and to my higher power and to be able to get words out of my head, because it gets so mumbled sometimes, So I start and I put my pencil down and where's my pencil? It's around here somewhere. I put my pencil down and I'm like, just write whatever's in your head, right? Like that's what you are to do. So I start writing and I'm like, feed the dog. And I'm like, yeah, let's get that shit out of there, because I don't even have a dog. Like, why is my brain telling me feed the dog? Like, our brains have the most random things sometimes. And when you put it down, it's like a symbolic gesture to your mind and your subconscious and your conscious mind that you're ready to release it. right? It's super therapeutic. So if you haven't tried this, or let's be honest, you haven't tried it legitimately, like, oh yeah, I dabbled in it. Like, unless you have committed and you've tried multiple different ways of doing this, I suggest that you try again, okay? So I just kept writing, and a few random things came out that just didn't really matter, which is fine because I'm the only one reading it later. And then the good stuff came. And then I started writing really fast, and I'm like tearing up my pencil and tearing up my paper, and it doesn't even make sense. Like, I can't even read the writing in it. But then that moment of magic comes, and I get the clarity. And almost every time I'm able to find some kind of clarity in what I was doing, which is really, it's magical, right? To be able to tap into yourself and be able to get answers like that. So I highly recommend that. Now, next, really briefly, is prompt writing. And you can get prompts in a journal that'll say, write 3 things that you're grateful for, or I don't know, nothing's coming to my brain at the moment, but you know what I mean. There's journals that have prompts like that. I recommend creating your own prompts with things that are flying around in your head, a problem maybe you don't know how to solve, or something that's kind of eating at you or stressing you out. Write it in question form at the top of the paper. So if it's why won't my intuition stop telling me to write this book, right? That's the first thing that popped in my head, because I was just talking to a mom that's I want to write this book, but I don't know, and I don't have a plan. If you want some clarity because you're just not sure, ask yourself a question, and then just empty your brain onto paper and just let it go. Super therapeutic and productive. I started this process during Caden's NICU days as I was trying to adopt some strategies that would help me to be able to process the shitstorm that was coming at me on a daily basis in the NICU. My son was in the neonatal intensive care unit for over 500 days, in case you didn't know that. And so for me, this has been much more than just a journaling practice. This has been everything. This has been so clarifying and gets me in touch with source, God, whatever you want to call it, that true part of myself that it gets overrun by thoughts so often, right? So ask yourself a question. My next second to last form of journaling is prayer and spiritual guidance in writing form, right? So again, it often comes for me, I kind of write, thank you, God of the highest truth and compassion, or whatever your word is, for showing me what I need to know. And open yourself up to whatever kind of messages that are needing to come through for you. You'll find all sorts of divine downloads, peace to things that you're feeling really chaotic in your mind about. You'll be able to find comfort in peace, and things will come out for you that are really, really very helpful and empowering to you going on with the rest of your day. I know this. I just did it this morning. It was awesome. Okay, last one. Visualization. And you can do this in a whole bunch of different ways too. I did mention this isn't the only methods of journaling, but these are the ones that I recommend starting with if you're fairly new and you're where do I start? Start with those ones. And this one can get kind of fun because as opposed to writing okay, I'm going to visualize I don't know, where do you start, So I'm a writer. I enjoy writing a lot. My dream is just being locked away in a cabin for 48 hours with pouring down rain or snow and a fireplace in my journal or my laptop. And I can just write, write fiction, write nonfiction, write all sorts of things. I love it. So for me, this comes out often in a fiction book. Or a chapter to a fiction book. Maybe I'll put it all together one day, but it is the picture of what my life looks like in 5 years, and the conversations that I have, and the type of people I engage with, and what my house looks like. And I can get into detail about what that fireplace feels like and smells like. And it really gets me into feeling what it is that I want, which is, it's fun. It's fun. That's all I can say. And you can do it in under 10 minutes, or to spend 30 minutes or spend an hour on it. If you're like me, you can dream about spending a weekend doing it. It's a lot of fun. So if you are new to this and struggling with that area, what is often helpful, and actually how I started, was to have a guided audio meditation that kind of led me into that place of being able to write, of having my mind clear, doing some breath work, centering on what it is that's supposed to be coming through for me or being released from me at that moment. And guided meditations were and still are a big part of my self-care, meditation, spiritual practices, if you will. So I recently created one for you. You can actually download that for free at the at my website, therippleimpact.net. Just threw that up on the screen for you. So scroll down to the bottom, you'll see free guided meditation under Mom Freebies, and use that and enjoy it and get yourself to a relaxed Zen place where you can really open up and just like dump all that stuff, dump it all onto paper, make it a daily practice. And I think if you are the type of person that's going to vibe with that, you'll really, really enjoy it, and it'll add a whole ton of value to your life. So that's that on journaling. I'm not going to keep going on and on about journaling. I could, but this is not a deep dive into journaling. So number one was add journaling to your daily life. I'm going to check comments in just a few. So I see I have a few people live with me. If you guys are blowing up my thread, I'll get back to them, okay? But I do want to get through this. Number two way to increase your happiness through this holiday season is to assess yourself in your life and find the root cause of your issues, okay? And I want to use the example of my weed garden as a parable or metaphor for this, if you will. I have a weed garden in my backyard, okay? A really nice backyard. I have this, what's supposed to be a really beautiful garden, but I didn't do anything with it all spring, all summer. I didn't do anything. I kept saying, oh, I should get out there and weed those gardens. But it just never happened. I couldn't find it in my priorities to make it to the top of the list, okay? That's fine. I accept that it wasn't a priority for me this year. But now I have this massive weed garden that's like overgrown with weeds, right? So if you think about my weed garden being like so many other issues that we have, right? And I was just talking to my daughter about this yesterday because it's one of my kind of pet peeves that a lot of us these days, even kids, want to get a diagnosis because it explains their issues or why they feel how they feel, or it makes it acceptable or appropriate or understandable, right? So they want to get that diagnosis for ADHD because it makes more sense now to them why they feel a certain way. They want to go to the doctor and get a diagnosis of depression because it will validate for them how they've been feeling and is the first step to be able to get help, right? That's awesome. So if you think about my weed garden, right, and that being my issue, right? I look out my backyard and I'm like, oh, my issue is this weed garden. I've got weeds everywhere. And I've just accepted that that's how it is, right? And I'm okay with that right now. But in this metaphor, if you will, and the weed garden being whatever diagnosis it is that we have accepted as our new normal, that we're ignoring the fact that there's a root to that issue. And we can pull the root out and deal with it at the root cause. And then that leaves our foundation to be able to be nurtured into something that grows into something epic and beautiful, like vegetables or sunflowers or whatever. So often we get the diagnosis of depression, autoimmune disease, anxiety, ADHD, the list goes on of things that we're diagnosed with, right? So we get the diagnosis and we're like, okay, it makes more sense, right? Except here's my problem. My problem is that too many people, especially moms, I think, are accepting it as their new normal. I have depression now. I have PTSD now. I have anxiety now. I think that the only way that those labels are helpful is if that having that label or that diagnosis allows you to be able to take action to fix the root of the issue. But instead, we don't do that often, right? We say, here's my issue. What Band-Aids can I sprinkle on top? Can I put a tarp over it? Can I just not take that picture when I'm showing people my backyard? That's just my depression garden or my weed garden. That's just a part of my yard now, right? Not realizing that at any moment we can just pull the weed out, and it might take some work. If it's been in there for a while and the ground is frozen, you may have to go rent a tiller and till that stuff up. You may need to hire a gardener. You may need to get some soil softener if that's a thing. Clearly, I don't know because my garden is still a weed garden out there because my priorities have been my internal garden, right? So wrapping this up, when we're talking about assessing and finding the root cause of an issue, think about what it is that's causing a disruption in your days, right? Is it depressive thoughts? Is it limiting beliefs or beliefs that are causing you to feel really gross, not elevating high? Is it of a trauma nature, right? What is it that's tripping you up? And what is the root cause of that? Is it physical? Is it emotional? Is it spiritual? It's one of those things, right? And we don't have to live with whatever diagnosis or issue we have, not because we have a ego problem or an issue with a stigma around a diagnosis, but because we are open and honest about mental health. We're real about this, and we don't want to just accept something that doesn't have to be accepted. You can heal from things like autoimmune issues or feelings of sadness or low stress resilience or being able to cope with the things that are coming up for us in our life. Time management, all your problems usually have a root, and you can fix it if you take the right steps to do that. But just like me, unwilling to do that because it's not a priority. My weed garden has not been a priority for me. You also have to decide, is your mental health a priority for you? And how much is that impacting your life? My weed garden wasn't impacting my life at all. What was going to be the negative consequence if I did nothing? Nothing other than, well, I guess I don't have beautiful vegetables and sunflowers, right? So I was okay with that risk versus benefit. And so each individual person has to decide for them, what's my level of comfort? Am I okay living with this garden of anxiety or depression or lack of time or lack of stress resilience? Am I okay living with all that? That's okay. I'm accepting that. Or is it time to make a change? Is it time to say, this is impacting my day. This is impacting my life. I think my life, I could have a better quality of life. My kids could have a better quality of life if I was fully present with them mentally. And those are the things that really matter, right? We have our kids for a certain amount of time and they grow up and you're like, where did the time go? My oldest is 16. I have 2 years left with him in this house, hopefully. Who knows what his plan will be, but I have just a few more years before he's like, I'm an adult and I'm on my way. That's not all that long. And each day adds up. So how I show up each day to me matters, but each mom has to decide for herself if that matters or not. Does that make sense? Okay. Tell me in the comments if that makes sense. The last thing that we can do to increase our happiness this holiday season, if you're wanting a little bit of support with this, is to join the Happier Mom Project Challenge. And this is a 3-day challenge that I'm putting together. It's really not intensive on work or lecture or even guest events. It's really just about nurturing and hanging out and enjoying each other and learning how to tap back into how to tap back into that part of ourselves that allows us to feel good. Because when we feel good, it energetically, literally carries an energetic entanglement with us. And when we feel good, that does ripple out to others. It just does. This is proven on so many different planes that when you feel good, it allows other people to feel good around you. The problem is we're tired and burnt out and we don't even know what that looks like anymore to like have fun, right? So this, so I have developed this to just be fun and be a good time and be a good time of virtual freedom and fantasy, and really allow you to unlock that piece of yourself that may be laying dormant, that you're like, I don't even know where that gal is, that girl that laughs and has fun. Like, I haven't seen her in a hot minute. Like, if that's you, or you're like, I am fairly happy, I feel pretty good about my life, but there's definitely some areas where I could up level, or I would like that high vibing feeling more often than I experience now, right? So if that's you, then by all means, I'm going to have the link in the description. But I personally believe that no mom deserves to be like suffering if she doesn't want to be. If she wants that weed garden, okay. But if she just doesn't know the right steps to take in order to create that abundance and that happiness and that feeling of fulfillment, then like somebody should give that mama a hand, right? And I know those things to do that can create that energetic elevation in us. And that's not to say that I don't feel like crap a lot of the time. Like, I'm coming off of quarantine from COVID. I was quarantined in my house for like 10 days. And this is my first official appearance since I've been sick. And I really am not the type of person that is like happy and bubbly and like positive all the time. I'm just not. Like, that wouldn't be realistic, because it just wouldn't be realistic. You know, you can't be vibing that high all the time. And I believe in being authentic and saying some days suck, you know, but you don't have to feel positive to take action. And you don't have to feel positive to put a plan in place that you know will help to elevate your life and eventually allow you to feel more positive and to feel good. And not that you'll live there all the time, but the goal is to be able to feel better more often, right? So I really encourage you and invite you to witness with love, without judgment. I talk about that often, where you're getting tripped up, what areas it is that are tripping you up. Is it that you don't even have enough time to think anymore? Is it that the thoughts that are going through your head are anxious or negative self-talk or depressive? Are you struggling with motivation and productivity? Like, what is the issue that impacts your daily life? And when you can assess that from a loving and witnessing perspective, then you can take the next steps, or baby steps, even if you don't have much energy or time. But you really have to invest that intention in yourself, and not just invest your intentions in taking care of everybody else. Like, someone has to take care of you, right? And that needs to be you. It needs to start with you. So the link will be in the description or in the comments, depending on where you're watching this, to sign up for that challenge, to unlock your happiness and feel better. I'll put that up there again too. So Gabby Bernstein is a New York Times bestselling author, speaker. I love her to pieces. And she teaches on this point that in order to attract abundance, you have to feel abundant. So instead of waiting for XYZ to take place, you feel good first, and you do the things that allow you to lean into joy and lean into feeling happy and smiling and playful, and lean away from the things that make you feel gross or make you feel crappy. If that's a person or a belief or a mindset, like, check your happiness meter. Maybe even tell me in the comments how much of the time, percentage-wise, that you feel really, really good, you know? And again, you don't always have to feel really good. If you're like, oh, I feel crappy a lot of the time, that's okay. Don't be hard on yourself. Don't go into a pity party. We're witnessing here. That's all. Okay. We're witnessing because that is our first step. And when you can do that without love, then you can create those things in your life. And that's what I'm all about, because I've lived in that place, the moment that I recognized for me that everything had to change, I was sitting on a NICU hallway floor 3.5 years ago, 4 years ago. I was sitting on the floor crying, not even caring who was watching, because I was just so broken and distraught and emotional. And I was mastering the art of crying in public and not caring. And I reached out to my little clan of moms that were my support system at the time. If you don't have one, highly recommend getting one. If you need one, I actually know of a few. So connect with me. And so I connected with this group of moms, and I was frantic, and it came through in my vocals. I was stressed out and frantic and blaming the doctors and blaming the nurses and incompetent this and that, and just like totally losing my mind. And this mom said to me, Christina, if you are not taking care of yourself, no one's going to take you seriously. No medical staff is going to want to work collaboratively with you. Your baby can feel that energy. Your husband can feel that energy. Like, you have got, like, it's almost like she reached through the phone and shook me like, Christina, get a hold of yourself. And sometimes we need that person in our life that's like, get a hold of yourself right now. You have a responsibility to yourself and to your family to put yourself first and to say, I have to hydrate. I have to sleep. I have to talk to friends. I have to take care of myself. Or I'm not going to be any good to anyone, right? I wasn't even planning on talking about this, but it's just going in my mind. So I'm going to go with it and trust in its spirit that's just wanting me to throw it out there. There is a couple of videos circulating of what does it mean to be a man? And the answers that came through were really heartbreaking for me to watch. Because the men were saying things like, it means nobody gives a shit. It means nobody's listening. Nobody cares, that you're always having to work hard, and no one's paying attention. Nothing is ever good enough. And I was like, wow, that's so sad that men feel that way, right? It's also so sad because I know so many moms that feel that way. And so there's a disconnect happening between relationships between men and women, which get passed on to our children that are watching us engage with each other, right? There's a disconnect to where people aren't feeling fully supported. They feel like they have no one that they can turn to. And so I'm not talking just moms. If you have a husband, think about it from that perspective too. Or if you have a son or a daughter, think about it from that perspective too, that our support systems are everything. And how many people are walking around saying, I really don't feel like there's one person I can call. I really feel like nobody gives a crap. Like, that's sad. And we need to rise up against that and say, that's not okay. We need to rise up and say, I will support you. I will be this person that can help you through the thing. And if I'm hurting, and I'm not able to be that support for you, then find a support somewhere else, But this victim attitude that we all carry around, this ego, the human ego part of us that says, oh, I don't have this, and I don't have this, and I don't have enough support system, and nothing I do is good enough. We're focusing on what we don't have or what we wish we had more of. And that makes us feel sad. That makes us feel stuck. But instead of changing it, we see that somebody else feels the same way. We see a video of a dude saying, what does it mean to be a man? It means that I'm never valued, I'm never appreciated, and this and that. And they say, let's pass this around. Yeah, I feel like that too. That is good to a point. Again, back to the garden. It's good to the point if it raises awareness, and that awareness creates action towards change. Otherwise, action without, or, like talking about it, the problem, and not offering any kind of solution, it's just whining, folks. It just is. And I may lose some viewers from this. I'm seeing how many people are dropping off. I may lose some viewers, and that's okay, because again, I'm here to speak my truth. But I think there's too many people, men, women, mom, children, who are learning this behavior, that are walking around thinking nobody gives a shit about me and I have to accept that as normal. No, you don't. I'm here to tell you that you can at any time change your story, flip it around, build yourself a support system, go to the gym, pick up the phone and call a buddy. Like, if you think there's not one person in your life that cares about you, get a new group of friends. Find a new circle. If you need one, let me know. I've got a few. I went off on a whole tangent there that I wasn't even planning. But if you're needing some support, some inspiration, a fellow group of people that say, hey, you matter, and I want to help nurture you back to love, sign up for that challenge. It'll be in the description. The happiness of yourself and the health of your family may depend on it. So remember that ripple starts with you, and you have so much more power than you claim each day. So I invite you to claim that. Join me in this challenge, and remember to feed yourself. Okay? I love you. Thanks for hanging with me, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you so much for absorbing this today. And before you go, one more thing. If you can't tell, I'm on a mission to create a ripple impact in the world, starting with each mom at home, helping her thrive her life her way. If this podcast resonated with you, please leave a review. Make sure you subscribe and share it with your friends. If you're interested in working with me, book a soul chat with me in the show notes, or head over to my website at www.therippleimpact.net. Have a great day, and I'll see you next week. With love as my guide, I'll see you next time.